On the evening of January 26, 1972, Bruno Honka, a resident of a small village in Czechoslovakia, heard something peculiar. Screams emanating from a nearby hillside. Overcome by curiosity and concern, Honka decided to investigate. As he approached the hill, he stumbled upon a scene that would forever change his life. The wreckage of an airplane torn apart by an explosion lay before him. The devastating crash seemed to have left no survivors, but then he heard the screams again. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Honka sprinted towards the noise. There, amidst the debris, he discovered a woman wearing a blood-stained flight attendant's uniform. Her shoes were missing, but she was still alive. The woman's name was Vesna Vulovic, and at that moment she had no idea that she was about to make history. She was the only survivor of the plane crash that had claimed the lives of 27 other people. What's more, she had miraculously survived a fall of 33,000 feet without a parachute, a feat that would earn her a place in the record books. Vesna Vulović was a woman with a passion for music and language. She held a special place in her heart for the Beatles and would often sing their songs with her friends. This sparked her interest in learning English, which she began studying in her hometown of Belgrade. After a year of learning the language, Vesna decided to go to England to further improve her skills. She initially stayed with her parents' friends in Newbury, but she longed to be in the bustling city of London. It was there that she met a friend who suggested they travel to Stockholm. However, when Vesna shared her plans to live in the Swedish capital with her parents, they were concerned and urged her to come home. They worried about the negative stereotypes surrounding drugs and sex in the city. Despite their concerns, Vesna was determined to see the world and make the most of her time abroad. During her travels, Vesna discovered the exciting world of flight attendants. Her friend was pursuing this career and would get to travel the world as part of her job. Vesna saw this as the perfect opportunity to explore more of the world and immerse herself in new cultures. Upon returning to Belgrade, Vesna met a friend who was a flight attendant for JT Airlines. She was immediately drawn to the attractive uniform and the stories of her travels, such as day trips to London. Vesna Vulovic's dream of becoming a flight attendant and seeing the world almost didn't happen. She had a history of low blood pressure, which made it unlikely that she would pass the medical exam. Yet Vesna refused to let her health stop her from achieving her dreams. In a last-ditch effort, she consumed several cups of coffee before the exam to raise her blood pressure. Her strategy paid off, and she was accepted into the flight attendant training program. However, her unwavering determination led her to pursue a career with JAT Airways, Yugoslavia's largest airline, in 1971. Despite not having a permanent contract, Vesna was excited at the prospect of exploring new places and immersing herself in different cultures. After working as a flight attendant for 8 months, Vesna received news that she would be joining the crew of JT Flight 367. The flight was scheduled to fly from Stockholm to Belgrade via Copenhagen. However, there was a mix-up. The airline had mistaken her for another attendant with the same name. Despite the confusion, Vesna agreed to join the crew of Flight 367, unaware of the events that would change her life forever. At the time, though, she viewed it as another opportunity to travel and explore a new country, as she had never been to Denmark before. Vesna Vulović had been excited for her unexpected layover in Copenhagen when she boarded JT Flight 367. However, her fellow crew members seemed anxious and disheartened about the trip ahead, with their interests centered around shopping and relaxing in the hotel. Although Vesna had hoped to sightsee and explore the city, she decided to go along with the group's plans and join them on their shopping excursion. Despite her disappointment, she tried to make the most of the time she had in Copenhagen. Next day, after usual procedure and the passengers and previous crew deplaned, 28 new passengers and Vesna's crew boarded. The flight took off at 3:15 p.m. But disaster struck 46 minutes into the flight, when an explosion occurred in one of the baggage compartments, causing the plane to split in two. The aircraft plummeted 33,330 feet to the ground in Srbska Kamenice, Czechoslovakia. An investigation later revealed that the cause of the explosion was a briefcase bomb planted by the Ustazi, a Croatian separatist group seeking independence from Yugoslavia. During the flight, an air traffic controller reportedly tried to contact the crew after being alerted to a potential bomb on the plane. However, the crew did not respond, and the plane continued its course until it vanished from radar in Czechoslovak airspace. Vesna later recalled seeing a man who looked terribly annoyed when all the passengers and crew deplaned in Copenhagen after flying from Stockholm. She and other crew members and the station manager in Copenhagen noticed his behavior, and Vesna wondered if he could be the person who planted the bomb that destroyed the plane. Although there is no certainty, Vesna thinks that he had checked in a bag in Stockholm, got off in Copenhagen, and never returned to the flight. The Croatian nationalist group responsible for the tragic event had a history of carrying out terrorist attacks in Yugoslavia, with over 100 incidents attributed to them between the 1960s and 1980s. An anonymous member even claimed responsibility for the bombing in a phone call to a Swedish newspaper. Despite this, no arrests were made. In the aftermath of the disaster, Vesna expressed her fear that she may have seen the man responsible for planting the bomb, leading to the police guarding her hospital room door and allowing only her parents and doctors to enter. Miraculously, Vesna was the sole survivor of the crash, and it was fortunate that Honka, a former medic in World War II, was the one who found her. His experience and knowledge proved critical in keeping her alive until rescuers arrived. Vesna sustained severe injuries from the fall, including 2 broken legs, 3 broken vertebrae, a fractured pelvis, broken ribs, and a fractured skull. Overcoming these injuries alone would have been a tremendous challenge, but Vesna also suffered a brain hemorrhage and total amnesia. She was taken to a hospital in Prague, where she remained in a coma for several weeks. Her injuries were so severe that even her doctors were unsure if she would survive. But Vesna was a fighter, and gradually she began to recover. Eventually, she regained consciousness, but her memory was completely wiped. When asked what had happened, Vesna couldn't provide an answer. She had no memory from an hour before the accident until almost a month later. Initially, the only memory she had was greeting passengers before the flight. The rest was a complete mystery. After waking up from her 4-week coma, her first request was for a cigarette. In addition to the amnesia, she had sustained injuries that could have easily led to paralysis or death. Yet, incredibly, within 10 months of the fall, she was able to walk again. Vesna's incredible recovery amazed the doctors. Despite suffering extensive injuries and spending a year and a half in the hospital, she was able to walk again. While the medical team was thrilled with her progress, they were also perplexed, as they had never seen anything like it before. Vesna herself attributed her speedy recovery to her childhood diet, which consisted of a lot of chocolate, spinach, and fish oil. She believed that these foods played a significant role in her ability to heal. Air safety investigators believe that Vesna's position within the aircraft at the time of the blast was a factor that helped her survive the fall. She had been in the rear of the plane with a food cart when the fuselage broke apart after the explosion. While many passengers were sucked out of the plane, Vesna was pinned by the cart. The small section she was in then fell to the ground. The heavily wooded, snow-covered hillside that she landed on also cushioned her fall. Her doctors agreed with the air investigators' conclusions and added their own theory. They claimed that the very thing that almost kept Vulovic from being a flight attendant is what ultimately saved her life. They believed that it was Vesna's low blood pressure that kept her heart from bursting on impact when she hit the mountainside. She lost consciousness during her free fall. After surviving the unimaginable, Vesna Vulovic became somewhat of a sensation. Her story made headlines across the globe, and in 1985 she even made it into the Guinness Book of Records for the highest fall survived without a parachute. She received her medal at a ceremony in London, where she was honored by none other than Paul McCartney himself. Despite her incredible recovery, Vesna was not able to resume her job as a flight attendant due to the numerous health complications caused by her injuries. However, she was offered an office-based job where she negotiated freight contracts. Due to her amnesia, Vesna Vulovic had no recollection of the crash or the explosion and maintained her love of flying and sense of adventure. She continued to fly as a passenger until her death in 2016 at the age of 66. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to check out the other great content on our channel. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you more. Thank you again, and see you in the next video.